Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time, we're tackling a topic that's probably on a lot of your minds these days.
Financial independence.
You got it. And no, we're not talking about retiring on a private island, unless that's your thing.
We'll be right back after a quick break.
We're talking about understanding your finances, making smart choices, and shaping a future where you have the freedom to pursue your dreams.
That's right. We're joined by an expert today who's going to help us navigate this exciting world. So when we say financial independence, what are we really talking about?
It's funny you should ask that. I was looking at this guide earlier and I was a little confused myself. Is it just about having a fat bank account? Or is there more to it than that?
That's a great question, and it's a lot more nuanced than just a number. It's really about having the freedom to make choices in your life without constantly worrying about money.
So it's not necessarily about being rich, but having options.
Exactly. It's about having the financial security to live life on your terms, whether that's pursuing a passion, spending more time with family, or just having the peace of mind that you're in control.
I love that, being in control. But where do we even start? What's the first step on this journey to financial independence?
Well, according to this guide, it all starts with knowing where you stand financially right now.
So before we even think about investing or anything like that, it's about taking stock of our income, expenses, all that jazz.
Exactly. It's like getting a financial checkup. You need to understand your starting point before you can map out a route to your destination.
That makes a lot of sense. But you know me, I like to skip ahead to the fun stuff. And this guy mentioned something about passive income streams.
Ah, yes. Passive income. That's always a popular topic.
Right. So what's the deal with passive income? Is it really like printing money in your sleep?
Well, not exactly printing money, but it is a way to earn money without actively working for it. Think of things like rental income, royalties from books or music, or even dividends from investments.
Okay, now we're talking. That sounds a lot more enjoyable than my 9 to 5. But let's be real. Before we can start dreaming about those passive income streams, we probably need to talk about something a little less glamorous.
Budgeting?
You read my mind, but does budgeting really mean I have to give up my daily lattes and avocado toast?
Not necessarily. It's not about deprivation. It's about being mindful of your spending habits and making sure your money is working for you, not against you.
Okay, that doesn't sound so bad.
Yeah.
So it's more like creating a plan for my money rather than just letting it slip through my fingers.
Exactly. Think of it like a roadmap for your finances. By tracking your income and expenses, you can see where your money is going and identify areas where you can save or invest more effectively.
So budgeting, financial roadmap, not financial prison.
Got it. Now, the guide also mentioned building an emergency fund, and that sounds a little intimidating. How much are we talking about here?
That's a great question, and it's different for everyone, but a good rule of thumb is to have 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses saved up. Wow, 3 to 6 months. That seems like a lot of money to just have sitting around.
It might seem that way, but think of it as your financial safety net.
Like a financial cushion for those unexpected bumps in the road. Makes sense.
Exactly. It's there to protect you in case of job loss, unexpected medical bills, or any other financial emergencies life throws your way.
Okay, now it's starting to feel less like a chore and more like peace of mind. So we've covered budgeting, emergency funds. Oh boy. I think it's time to address the elephant in the room.
Debt.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, debt can definitely be a challenge, but the guide highlights a couple of popular strategies to help you tackle it head on. The snowball and the avalanche methods.
Okay, those names sound way more fun than dealing with debt usually does.
Right. It's about making it a little less daunting.
So, what's the difference between the snowball and the avalanche?
So with the snowball method, you focus on paying off your smallest debts first, regardless of the interest rates.
So you get those quick wins early on to stay motivated. I like it.
Exactly. And then you kind of snowball your way up to the bigger debts. The avalanche method, on the other hand, focuses on tackling the debts with the highest interest rates first.
So you save money in the long run. It's interesting that they both have their advantages. Snowball for motivation, avalanche for saving on interest. Tough choice. But before we spiral down the rabbit hole of debt repayment strategies, I think we need to take a break.
Sounds good. We'll be right back after a quick message. All right, so we're back.
And ready to dive back in. Right, where did we leave off? Oh yeah, debt repayment strategies. But before we get too bogged down in numbers, I'm curious about what comes after we've, slayed that debt monster.
Well, according to the guide, the next stage of our financial journey brings us to, drumroll please, retirement.
Retirement. Okay, hold on. That seems a tad premature, don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, shouldn't we be focusing on things like, I don't know, actually enjoying our money in the present moment? Retirement feels like light years away.
It might feel that way now, but trust me, when it comes to retirement, the early bird catches the worm, or in this case, the compound interest.
Compound interest. Is that like some secret financial code word I should know?
Not exactly a secret code word, but it is a powerful concept. It's basically interest earning interest, like magic, but with money.
Okay, you officially have my attention. Explain it to me like I'm 5.
So imagine you invest $100. With compound interest, you earn interest on that initial investment. But here's the cool part. The next year, you earn interest on the original amount, plus the interest you already earned.
So it's like my money is making little money babies that then grow up and make more money babies.
That's a creative way to put it, but you've got the right idea. The point is, the earlier you start investing, even with small amounts, the more time your money has to potentially grow exponentially thanks to the magic of compound interest.
Okay, you have me at exponentially. I'm starting to see why retirement savings matter, even if retirement itself feels like a lifetime away. But let's talk about investing. To be honest, the whole thing kind of intimidates me. Is it really as complicated as it seems?
It can definitely seem that way, with all the jargon and different investment options out there, but it doesn't have to be overwhelming. This guide actually does a great job at breaking down some of the basics.
All right, I'm listening. What are some of these investment basics we should be aware of?
Well, you've got your classic investment options like stocks and bonds. Stocks are essentially like putting tiny pieces of ownership in a company.
So if the company does well, my investment does well too.
Exactly. And on the flip side, if the company does poorly, your investment could lose value. It's a bit of a risk-reward situation.
High risk, high reward, got it. What about bonds?
Bonds are a little different. They're more like lending money to a government or company. You lend them money, and they promise to pay you back with interest over a set period.
So it's like being the bank, but hopefully they actually pay me back.
Let's hope so. But in all seriousness, bonds are generally considered less risky than stocks, but they also typically offer lower returns.
Okay, so stocks are for those who are comfortable with a little more risk, while bonds are for those who prioritize stability and steady income. Makes sense. What other investment options are out there? I think the guide mentioned something about real estate.
You're right. Real estate can be a great investment as property values tend to appreciate over time.
Plus, you could always rent out the property for some extra cash flow. It's like a double whammy of financial goodness.
Exactly. Though it's important to remember that real estate also comes with its own set of risks and responsibilities. It's not as passive as some people might think.
Duly noted. Okay, we've covered stocks, bonds, and real estate. But I have to admit, I'm already feeling a little overwhelmed by all these options. Where does someone with zero investing experience even begin?
Don't worry, this guide has got you covered. It actually suggests something called index funds, which are perfect for beginners.
Index funds. Tell me more.
Think of an index fund like a basket of stocks or bonds. Instead of putting all your eggs in one basket by investing in, say, just one company's stock, index funds spread your investment across a diverse range of companies.
So it's like investing with a safety net.
Exactly. Index funds offer built-in diversification, which can help reduce risk. It's a great way to dip your toes into the investment pool without getting in over your head.
Index funds, diversification. I'm starting to sound like a pro, but before I get ahead of myself, let's talk about this whole idea of building multiple streams of income.
Now you're talking, that's a concept I can really get behind.
Right. It's like having multiple safety nets under your financial tightrope walk.
Speaking of which, maybe now's the time to pursue my lifelong dream of being a trapeze artist while also writing children's books and investing in real estate.
Hey, I fully support following your dreams. But on a serious note, having multiple streams of income is crucial for financial security. It's about creating a more stable financial foundation, so if one income source dries up, you've got others to fall back on. Makes sense. So besides trapeze artistry, what are some other examples of building these magical income streams?
It could be anything from starting a side hustle you're passionate about, like freelance writing or graphic design, to renting out a spare room on Airbnb.
Oh, or teaching an online course on something you're good at. Like, Underwater basket weaving. There's got to be a market for that, right?
You'd be surprised. The point is, there are countless ways to create additional income streams. It's all about getting creative and leveraging your skills and interests.
Okay, multiple income streams, check. It's all about diversifying our income to create more resilient financial life. Now, while we're on the topic of building a solid financial foundation, the guide emphasizes the importance of something called living below your means. And I have to ask, does that mean I need to start living like a minimalist, giving away all my possessions and surviving on rice and beans?
That's a common misconception. Living below your means isn't about deprivation or extreme frugality. It's more about being mindful and intentional about your spending.
So it's not about living in a financial straitjacket, but rather being a conscious consumer and making sure our spending aligns with our values and goals.
You got it. It's about finding that sweet spot between enjoying life's pleasures and making smart financial decisions that support your long-term well-being.
Okay, that makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah.
But how do we actually put this living below your means philosophy into practice? What are some tangible steps we can take?
One practical tip the guide offers is to differentiate between your needs and your wants.
Needs versus wants. Sounds simple enough, but I have a feeling it's easier said than done.
It definitely takes practice, but it's a powerful mindset shift. Before you make a purchase, especially a big one, ask yourself, do I truly need this or do I just want it in this moment? That simple question can save you a lot of money and clutter in the long run.
Needs versus wants. I'm going to write that on a Post-it note and stick it to my forehead.
I love the enthusiasm. Another thing the guide warns against is something called lifestyle inflation.
Lifestyle inflation. What's that? When my wardrobe suddenly demands designer labels.
That's one version of it. It basically means that as our income increases, our expenses tend to increase along with it. We get a raise, so we buy a nicer car. We get a promotion, so we upgrade our apartment.
Oh, I know that trap all too well. The siren song of more is hard to resist.
It is, but that constant upgrading can quickly sabotage our savings goals and keep us trapped on the hedonic treadmill.
The hedonic treadmill. I'm adding that to my list of financial terms to Google later. But seriously, how do we avoid this trap?
Awareness is the first step. Once you're aware of lifestyle inflation, you can start to make more conscious choices about your spending. Creating a budget and tracking your expenses can also help you stay on track and avoid those sneaky little splurges that add up over time.
So it's all about being mindful and intentional, not just with our big purchases, but also with those smaller, everyday expenses.
You nailed it. Those small expenses can really add up over time, so it's important to be aware of where your money is going and make sure it's aligned with your goals.
Mindful spending and intentional living. I like the sound of that. What other pearls of financial wisdom does the guide offer?
The guide also stresses the importance of something they call financial education.
So we've covered budgeting, we've talked about investing, even touched upon the art of living below our means without morphing into total minimalists. What else is there to learn?
You'd be surprised. It's not just about the mechanics of managing money. This guide emphasizes that knowledge is power when it comes to your finances. It's about understanding how different financial products work, staying informed about economic trends, and continuously learning so you can make savvy decisions with your money.
Okay, I get it. Financial education is key. But does that mean I have to sign up for some boring night classes or spend all my free time reading those dry financial textbooks? Because honestly, I'd rather wrestle a bear.
Not at all. There are so many fun and engaging resources available these days. The guide actually mentions a couple of really popular books that are supposed to be super insightful. One is called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Have you heard of it?
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Yeah, it rings a bell. Isn't that the one that challenges those traditional ideas about money and success?
Exactly. It's supposed to be a real eye-opener. And then there's another one, The Millionaire Next Door.
Ooh, The Millionaire Next Door. Now that one sounds intriguing.
Right. Apparently it delves into the spending habits of everyday millionaires, and it turns out they're not all driving fancy sports cars and living in mansions.
Okay, now I have to read it. Unmasking the secrets of those under-the-radar millionaires. Sign me up. But books aside, what other avenues of financial enlightenment are out there? We're practically swimming in information these days.
Don't forget about podcasts, just like the one we're doing right now. There are tons of podcasts out there dedicated to making personal finance approachable and even entertaining.
True that. Podcasts are like having a personal finance guru in your pocket.
Yeah.
And of course, there's always the vast universe of YouTube.
Oh yeah, YouTube is a goldmine of information. There are so many creators out there sharing their financial journeys, tips, strategies, you name it.
It's like having a whole library of financial knowledge right at our fingertips. But with all this information swirling around, it's easy to feel overwhelmed.
It definitely can be. That's why, according to this guide, the final piece of the financial freedom puzzle is
Wait for it.
setting clear financial goals.
Goals. Now we're talking my language. But how do we make sure our financial goals aren't just, wishful thinking? How do we actually make them happen?
That's where the actionable part comes in. It's not enough to simply say, I want to be financially independent. We need to break down that big, ambitious goal into smaller, more manageable steps.
Okay, so it's like creating a roadmap, but for our finances. I like it.
Exactly. The guide suggests setting short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals, each one acting as a stepping stone on your path to financial freedom.
So tell me more about these different time frames. What exactly are short-term goals?
Think of short-term goals as those you want to achieve within the next year or so. Things like paying off a specific credit card, building up your emergency fund, or maybe saving for a down payment on a car.
Short-term wins to fuel the long-term journey.
Uh,
What about those medium-term goals? Those feel a little more substantial.
Definitely. Medium-term goals usually span a few years. They require more planning and discipline. Think saving for a down payment on a house, investing in a rental property, or maybe hitting a specific savings milestone that aligns with your personal financial goals.
Okay, so they're the stepping stones that bridge the gap between our short-term actions and those big, audacious, long-term dreams.
Exactly. And speaking of big, audacious dreams, that's where long-term goals come in. These are the visions that might feel a bit further down the road, but will ultimately shape your financial future. We're talking about that comfortable retirement we discussed earlier, achieving financial independence by a certain age, or even leaving a legacy for your loved ones.
It's like creating a financial roadmap for our lives. I love it. But even with a roadmap, this whole journey towards financial independence can feel, well, a little overwhelming at times. Any advice for those moments when we hit a financial speed bump?
Absolutely. First and foremost, remember that you don't have to do it all at once. This isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. It's about progress, not perfection.
Progress over perfection.
Yeah.
I'm all about that, especially when it comes to finances.
Exactly. And remember to celebrate those victories along the way. Each milestone you reach, no matter how small, deserves to be acknowledged. Those little wins help keep you motivated for the long haul.
I love that. Celebrate those wins. It's so easy to get caught up in what we haven't accomplished yet that we forget to acknowledge how far we've come. Any other nuggets of wisdom for our listeners before we wrap things up?
Don't be afraid to ask for help or guidance when you need it. There are so many resources available. Don't try to navigate this journey alone.
That's such an important reminder. We're all in this together. Well, this deep dive into financial independence has been eye-opening, to say the least. We've covered so much ground. We've explored our current financial situations, created budgets, slayed those debt monsters, and even dipped our toes into the exciting world of investing. We've learned that living below our means doesn't mean living like a monk, and we've discovered a treasure trove of resources for expanding our financial knowledge.
It's been quite a journey, and the best part is you've already taken the first step by simply being here, listening, learning, and engaging with these concepts.
So true. You've got to start somewhere, and knowledge really is power. Who knows, maybe someday soon we'll both be lounging on those metaphorical beaches, financially independent, and sipping on those virtual cocktails.
Here's to that. But in the meantime, remember, every step you take, no matter how small, is a step in the right direction.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you all for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the empowering world of financial independence. Now go out there and start building those bright financial futures one step at a time.